Welcome to this explainer diving into Eaton Corporation's absolutely wild, transformative 2026. Look, if you follow the industrial and power management spaces, you already know the ground is shifting beneath our feet at breakneck speed. Well, Eaton hasn't just been riding that wave, they are actively engineering it. Oh, and quick heads up before we get into the weeds, what we're covering today is based on public info as of August 2026, so this is strictly for educational purposes, not financial advice, right? Actuals can always shift. Okay, let's get into it.
Here is the roadmap for today. We're hitting 5 main chapters: record-breaking financial results, reshaping the corporate portfolio, aerospace sector takes flight, quantum computing power grid, and finally, executing the 2030 strategy.
Chapter 1. Record-breaking financial results, the AI data center boom.
So Eaton started the year incredibly hot with $7.5 billion in Q1 sales. But Q2 is just explosive. We're talking revenue soaring to $8.5 billion. That is a massive 21% jump year over year. Organic sales actually grew by 14%, completely shattering the high end of their own guidance. All this top-line magic pushed their adjusted earnings per share up to $3.15. Because of this undeniable strength, Eaton actually went ahead and bumped up their full-year organic growth guidance to that 11 to 13% range, aiming for an EPS between $13.40 and $13.60.
Now, to really put that data center growth into perspective, you have to look at the contrast. The overall market grew at a very respectable 23%. Good, right? But Eaton's organic revenue in this exact same sector surged by an unbelievable 65%. I mean, they aren't just participating in the AI boom, they are vastly outpacing the market average, capturing those crazy power demands in a way that just puts them in a league of their own.
CEO Paulo Ruiz summed it up perfectly, noting how they accelerated momentum and delivered solid earnings through strong organic growth. But the real so what here is how that disciplined execution drove sequential margin expansion and, crucially, massive backlog growth. Their electrical sector backlog jumped a whopping 43% year over year. Think about that for a second. That single metric essentially guarantees them immense visibility all the way into 2027.
All right, Chapter 2. Reshaping the corporate portfolio, strategic chess moves.
So how are they fueling all this? By totally reshuffling the deck. In 2026, Eaton made some incredibly aggressive chess moves to align entirely with secular megatrends like AI, global electrification, and defense. On one side, they intentionally exited the traditional vehicle space. They spun off their mobility group into a $10 billion tax-efficient reverse Morris Trust merger with Dana, which should close by Q1 2027. And on the flip side, they deployed $11 billion in the first quarter alone, gobbling up high-margin tech players like Boyd Thermal and Ultra PCS. They basically traded lower-growth legacy operations for high-growth tech dominance.
The absolute crown jewel of that buying spree was picking up Boyd Thermal for $9.55 billion back in March. This gets them to what they call a complete grid-to-chip solution. What does that mean? Well, Eaton already manages the massive electrical power coming off the grid into the data center. Now, with Boyd's tech, they literally handle the specialized liquid cooling that keeps those intense AI processor chips from melting down inside the server racks. It is a brilliant end-to-end capture of the infrastructure market.
When you lay out the timeline, the sheer speed of this corporate transformation is wild. January, boom, they grab Ultra PCS for $1.53 billion for mission-critical aerospace controls. March, they dropped $9.55 billion on Boyd to lock down that grid-to-chip pipeline. By June, they announced the $10 billion Dana spinoff. And by August, they're installing top-tier leadership and winning futuristic defense contracts. They literally did not slow down for a second.
Moving on to Chapter 3. Aerospace sector takes flight, human leadership and sector growth.
While all that corporate restructuring was happening, the aerospace division became a massive standout performer, heavily bolstered by a key human capital addition. In August, they tapped Sean Black as the new president of the Global Aerospace Group. You're talking about a guy with over 20 years of intense aerospace and defense leadership. He previously led defense at GKN Aerospace, was CEO at Cobham, and he has that foundational experience as an officer in the U.S. Marine Corps. They brought in an absolute heavy hitter to steer the ship.
Pete Denk, the president and COO of the industrial sector, made it crystal clear why this matters. He emphasized that Sean's track record is exactly what's needed for this next phase of growth. Eaton is already a leading provider of highly complex hydraulic, electrical, and motion control solutions to military and commercial aircraft. Bringing Blacken right now to capitalize on all this momentum is just a perfectly timed maneuver.
And honestly, the numbers totally justify bringing in that level of leadership focus. In Q2 alone, the Aerospace Group raked in $1.2 billion, up 13% year over year. This was driven by some serious commercial OEM and aftermarket strength. But the kicker? Backlog growth shot up by 28%. The demand is locked in, now they just need to execute.
Okay, Chapter 4. Quantum Computing Power Grid, the Quantum Leap.
Now, let's pivot from corporate strategy to something that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but is absolutely critical for all of us today. The question is, how do you actually protect a modern power grid from simultaneous, totally unpredictable physical and cyber threats? Current standards usually just prep for 2 sequential component failures, but as we all know, our world is a lot more chaotic than that.
The grids we rely on every single day face these massive compound threat scenarios. Imagine a highly sophisticated cyber attack hitting at the exact same moment a severe wildfire or a hurricane takes down physical transmission lines. Classical computers literally cannot calculate the exponentially large combinations of these threats in real time. It requires a completely different class of computing power.
Enter Eaton. To solve this, they were awarded a $7 million 24-month contract by the U.S. Air Force Research Lab. Working right alongside quantum hardware developer Implication and Penn State University, Eaton is actually leading a program to develop novel, hybrid quantum classical algorithms. The goal here is to optimize these complex circuits for a proof of concept that will actively protect our critical energy infrastructure. It's next-level defense.
Which brings us to our final chapter, executing the 2030 strategy. The big picture.
When we zoom out, it's abundantly clear that the record earnings, the $11 billion in acquisitions, the leadership appointments, the quantum research, they are all highly calibrated gears in a much larger machine pointing straight at 2030. To ensure they can actually meet this exploding demand, Eaton is putting its money where its mouth is. They have committed a cool $1 billion to 24 different capacity expansion projects across Electrical Americas alone.
As Paulo Ruiz sums it up so well here, Eaton has intentionally engineered a much more focused portfolio. By exiting legacy mobility and leaning heavily into intelligent power, liquid cooling, and aerospace, they've built a record backlog that gives them unprecedented visibility and stability well beyond 2027.
So, here is the ultimate thought I want to leave you with today. As Eaton continues building out this critical grid-to-chip infrastructure, how will these massive advancements in AI power and quantum security redefine the future of your industry? It's something we all need to be thinking about. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer on Eaton's incredible year. If you want to dive deeper into any of this, definitely check out eaton.com. Keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.